as entrepreneurs, we have to invest in ourselves, and in
Yeah.
investing in ourselves to get the knowledge we need to really start, grow, and scale our business. I highly recommend Joe's program, the CMET program, because if you don't know what you don't know. Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Trip podcast with X.T.C. I'm Shalonda.
I'm Tristan.
And I'm Chris.
As an entrepreneur starting or growing your business, you may have a destination, but the journey getting there can be a trip. We want to be your travel companions and inject a dose of X.T.C as we explore real-life conversations about navigating the world of entrepreneurship in the U.S. and the Caribbean. Come take this trip with us.
Yo, welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur's Trip, where you're meeting with three lovely entrepreneurs, and I don't know how to
Tristan.
Oh, Chris, I thought you were the ones with the nuggets of wisdom. I see how we just did this. Man, you gotta pick your friends wisely and your collaborators. I don't know. That's why he's delegated to push the buttons. But we're here with Joe. Joe started in sales. We were having an amazing conversation last time about, I want to say, wealth, legacy. Oh gosh, what was it when you told me we wanted to integrate? Where we wanted to integrate, and we just kind of are inequity. Yeah. And with the inequity. So we're here with Joe. We're gonna have another great episode. In this episode, he's not gonna be drinking as much because we're past that. We've matured, and we're gonna go straight into this show. It's gonna be a little weird. Don't watch the timer, none of that stuff. This is gonna be real heart to hearts about business. I want you guys to really listen, because this is not about passing our legacy on to not just our kids directly, but sharing it with other entrepreneurs, because we got to know, like, and trust other entrepreneurs, not only that just look like us, but people that share our vision also. Chris, let's start tripping on this drink.
All right,
we
Tristan.
came back quick. No, it's not what it looks like, guys.
What are you doing, Tristan?
Busted.
Joe, you're a bad example. I'm just doing what Joe told me. He said pour slow. He said something about you gotta let it breathe. That's.
Hey, how did I get into this beef?
Well, first off, you knew Shalana. So I thought I was gonna be beefing with you, and then you said some things that I liked. So then, unfortunately, you just happen to be on my side. So we're gonna do like the entrepreneurship version of a versus, team left versus team right. See how I did that? So I got Joe. Joe, what you drinking with me, fam? What you drinking with me? They put these timers in. They put this timer in for people like Joe and me. You gotta look at them. They're just over there, well composed, just flowing. So we're gonna do this to speed this section up just a little bit. Chris got a triple threat. It's gonna be water, coffee, and a little flame. And a little flame. My sweetheart up top to the top right. She likes to keep us level, keep us awake, make sure we stay on pace. And the only how you could do that with a man like Joe in this room is you're going to need a lot of energy and a lot of caffeine. So what she's drinking doesn't give her wings, but it keeps us grounded. I'm guessing a little coffee in that cup. You saw how I did that?
Wow.
You saw how I did that, Joe?
He got bars. He got bars. The verses is real.
And up top, we got my man, Joe. He comes down. He drops that little rain with all that water he drinks. Keep us nice and precipitated. He's going to keep this and nurture us in such a way that we'll grow. We got 15 seconds left, and then we're going to start to unpack. So I hope, don't even unpack. This is one of those vacations you come in, you sit on the edge of the bed, and you're just going to watch this setup real quick. Chris, let's show him how to unpack real quick. All right, so we're unpacking. We got 10 minutes. Joe, you saw we did that. I had to get rid of him in the first segment really quick. But I want to talk about this, like, legacy and having these conversations and the conversations that I feel like we missed. So I want to ask you something really quick. Your dad was an entrepreneur?
No, well, I guess you might say he was, because he was a minister. and a church is a business. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
a church is a business. Uh, he had, God, let's see, he probably had, in my 18 years of being in the house, he had 4 churches.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And each one kind of the same thing. It was one that was kind of on the downswing. He had to go in, not only spiritually uplift the church, but physically by, he was a carpenter and a mason. So literally been some, doing, I remember just mixing the concrete, mortar, going up that ladder, handing. And I guess he was an artist because he could, take river rock and say, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go there. So it was beautiful to see him do that. And my mother she was the analytical. She could look at things and go, okay, my father's name was Albert, and she said, Albert, that's going to cost too much. You're going to have to move this. You're going to do this, take this away. And he'd be unhappy about it because he was a visionary. He could see things. He didn't want to cut back on the vision. He knew that there was
Shalana and I. That's Shalana and I right there. Like she pumps my brakes. Like I got the vision. I say we could do this, and then she looks back and she's like, Tristan, your funding. Like, how's this funding gonna work? Because we can't keep doing this. And so the entrepreneurs trip, we need your subscriptions. Just click like, hit that little button below, whatever it is you gotta do. There's a lot of free information that Shalana is like we're pulling it. It's a business. We can't keep losing at the end of the day. But I like how you did that, Joe. It's like they sent Daddy in to teach about Jesus, but he was like Joseph because he was the mason and carpenter, and it was sent into. I see how you did that, man.
Yeah,
Left side.
I would say I was very fortunate to have 2 parents that sacrificed a lot for me. They went out because they both, think about it. My grandparents were freed slaves in North Carolina. So I'm 1 generation away from slavery.
Wow.
And that's something that I don't take, lightly. On my mother's side in Virginia, I would go there and I would see relatives that had blue eyes. And so, so you grew up in that kind. So things had to be explained to you as a child. And that was good. We had those conversations, but I saw my father do things because this was also the time of integration, and going from segregation to integration. I saw that shift and the resistance to that shift, and then like we were talking about in the earlier segment, when we hit that divide in the road, I took 1 lane, other. That whole different shift that we made,
because we wanted to belong. We didn't necessarily want, I don't want to say what was better for us. We just wanted to belong, keep up with the Joneses. No pun intended. So go ahead, Joe. You look like it's going.
But Tristan, that was not. You have to remember that the goal of Martin Luther King was access. We didn't have access.
Right.
And people got confused with access and integration. They're 2 different things. If you look at, fortunately for me, my mother and father had a house. But if you look at a city like Orlando had redlining. So you didn't have access to capital to get a better house. You didn't have access to capital to build a business because of redlining. It's
Yeah. And it's interesting that we are going back and looking at history and how it's brought us to where we are here, because another detour or shift or pivot happened in 2020. Nationally and globally, we had COVID, right? Which was something that affected everybody globally. Right. But with that, we also had the murder of George Floyd.
Right.
And that created a decision point for a lot of people. To your point in the previous episode, Joe, when you said we're trending for equality, equity, and accountability, you saw that heightened level of accountability, particularly in corporate America, where it was, oh, you're coming out with these statements saying you're supporting Black Lives Movement, or you're supporting more representation, or you're supporting greater access for people of color, good. Let's see you do it now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, Jolanda, that is so much different than the 60s, because you think about the number. Martin Luther King only had a favorability rating of 37%.
Wow.
And this is up until he died. So when people go back and say, oh, yeah, I was for integration and blah, blah. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. I mean, I can remember being, you know, they would stone our bus when we went to certain locations. So there was, so you're right, that we're in a different dynamic now where we have the possibility of access to resources. And that's one of the things we have to take advantage of. But we have to hold ourselves accountable to, these are businesses. And businesses are run by numbers. They're not run by feelings. I like you a lot. You know, thumbs up, thumbs down. It's based on numbers. When you go on CNBC, they don't talk about, well, your monthly report had 3,000 likes and 4,000 dislikes. It's like you hit your top line number, you hit your bottom line number, and you're paying back a dividend to stockholders. That's the mindset we've got to have in regards to moving forward in this next generation, the generation after that, is that these are businesses. There are metrics that we use to say what's good business and bad business. And that's how you got to deal with that. And it's a learning. I mean, like we we're talking about with CMET. I mean, you've got to build a foundation first, right? Once you have a solid foundation, then you can come in and add the framing. You can put in the rooms, put the roof on, and you've got a house. But you got to furnish the house. You got to do that. And in the earlier segment, we've got to get to that point of, okay, where can I go for Tristan to get $10,000 to cover payroll for the first quarter? Because if not, guess what? Tristan's dream dies.
Right.
But if Tristan is,
sorry to cut you off, Joe, but having been a participant of CMET, which stands for the Center of Micro-Entrepreneurial Training, which is an intensive 5-day accelerated program. And I could tell you it is intense, but as entrepreneurs, we have to invest in ourselves, and in investing in ourselves to get the knowledge we need to really start, grow, and scale our business. I highly recommend Joe's program, the CMET program, because if you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, then you don't know what you need to work on.
Yeah.
And if you don't know certain people, you may not be able to have access to resources, that $10,000 that Tristan needs. So for example, even though I'm here in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, as an alumni of CMET, Joe sent out an email and I sat in a TD Bank Black in Business webinar they had this week talking about access to funding, access to monies for businesses. That's the ripple and residual effect that you get when you participate in a program like Joe. And it's been really delightful this morning to get to know Joe's background and his history, because that speaks to why he's so passionate about CMET and why he's so passionate about sharing knowledge and so passionate about helping entrepreneurs grow. This is like his life work. Pharmaceuticals was just a training ground, right? But when you see Joe in action with the wealth of information and the caliber of people that he brings into that CMET program, and the fact that we have access to it, take advantage of it. Tristan and Chris, y'all got to do it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm
October
definitely
3rd.
going to do it. We all about it, bro.
Keeping them updated, but it's one thing to hear it through me, and it's another to experience it for yourself.
Right.
And, you know, and the whole goal when I put the program together was just what you said. It was people, content, and network. You know, you're the people that come into the program. But the content is so important because of my background in pharma and medical devices, is that when you see someone on the screen that looks like you, but is a knowledge expert, and they can give you resources, they can give you the knowledge, their learnings of being successful entrepreneurs are coming from academic backgrounds. And then you have a network. You have a network of 11 people, of 15 people that you've gone through 5 days. And that's the beauty of CMET, is that you have this community now that you can collaborate with. You have, like you say, access to JP Morgan Chase, access to Truist Bank, access to Michelle Chenault, access to Savola Frazier. You have coaches that are there to help you build your business and make you better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One thing I was going to say to that really quick is that through all of that, what I think we take for granted is that, Joe, with that program, you have no other choice but to inspire other people. And that's just it. We see people that look like us as doing what it is that we want to do. And people who are entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are people that do what they're passionate about, and they show you the change that they felt was needed within their community or in the world. So we're going to hit that detour, Chris. All right, so no swerving. We're just going to hit a straight deep dive really quick. So I'm going to share with you guys. My dad is an entrepreneur. My mom is a worker. My mom, when I say she's a worker, she's a hell of a worker, right? So I believe, and that's why I asked you, Joe, if your father or somebody was an entrepreneur, because I think, I don't want to say, I'm starting to feel like it's a gene that's somewhat passed down. Like we've had some kind of, I don't want to say like it happens, like you get this early introduction. You don't have to understand what it is. You don't have to know what it means. But then it becomes that calling because there's something about an entrepreneur. I know what it is. We just do whatever the hell we want. That's what it is. That when as kids you see it, you're like, I ain't got to take this. I could do what I want. And that's just it. I can't say I had a great relationship with my dad in my early years. I knew him. We got along. But now it's like unbelievable. And I feel part of that is because we're entrepreneurs. So there's certain things like we discussed. So my dad had a refrigeration business. Don't ask me how I got in the cameras or any of that stuff. And the other day we had the conversation like, I was like, Dad, do you realize that if we were tighter knit, I might have never did camera work or whatever it is, but I might have been in the refrigeration business. And the clients that you have would have been my clients. And I would have added from your clients, bring my own clients along, and then we would have had something else to pass along. Because I'm thinking about the contracts that he has and all these different things. Because once he goes to me, that's gone. That would have been that's how I feel most of America, technically, most of these Titan companies made their money. Is that they just kept it in their family and they kept passing it on and building, right? And this is what Joe was saying with this knowledge, because with him having certain conversations with his dad being a visionary and mom pulls it in, makes everything holistic with a team like that, I feel we can't lose. You get best of both worlds. So my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was a worker. She saved. So my early run-ins was stuff like I ran to the bank for $5,000 in the hand at the age of 9. So I got to know how to count money. I got to know what my change is before you give it back to me, and just handling money. And I didn't look at it at that point in time as a training for what it is that I would do. And so I remember I was going to do something. Business gets slow. And I remember we had one of the biggest oil refineries in the Western Hemisphere. And I got a call and they were like, we're looking for scaffold builders, yada, yada. It pays good. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And my mom, she was like, oh, that's good money. You could go in there, work that shift, save your money. Oh my gosh, that's going to be great. Just think about what it is you're going to make. I called my dad. And my dad only asked one question. He was like, what you go to school for? I said, all right. I said, all right. And that was just it. So, like Joe was saying, and I'm detouring in this sense because those principles that we passed on, these conversations that we're not having, I'm sorry, is it CMET? I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah,
CMET.
got it. Yep.
Right. So the CMET, these programs are so instrumental for us, so inspiring, and that's why I told you, like, you got to count the fact that you inspire, because we need these conversations from us to help us understand what it is that we're doing. When we look at entrepreneurs, I feel we put them on pedestals. They're people that don't fail, they don't do this. We've had numerous Conversations on the Entrepreneurship from Steve Jobs to I can't remember his name for Amazon. There's a bunch of failed
Jeff
projects
Bezos.
that they have, right? A bunch of failed projects that they have. But what some of them had that we would have never had is that access to capital. You see what I'm saying?
Let me push back a little bit, Tristan.
Go ahead.
One of the
Remember, you're on
things.
my side, though.
All right. All right. I might be
on the
Arthur
right
Ashe again. I might be moving to the other side of the picket line.
He's on the right side.
I think you have to consider this, and these are the things that
Listening.
sometimes entrepreneurs lose sight of. These critical things: discipline, execution,
Definitely.
and commitment. All right. Now you mentioned Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. You mentioned Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos.
Bezos.
Take the example of those two. Elon Musk took over Tesla.
Yeah.
He wasn't the originator of Tesla.
Correct.
Steve Jobs got fired from Apple
Correct.
and then came back. And so, again, they were given the opportunity to fail and then start again. And that's something that we've got to learn to do is say, okay, you might fall down, but you're going to have a safety net. If we believe in you and what you can do, you're disciplined, you're committed,
Trust.
you're focused, and you can execute. Well, guess what? You will be more likely to be successful. It's hard work. I mean, I'm not going to gloss over and say it's not.
Correct.
But as entrepreneurs, those are the things I think we kind of overlook. And one of the things that we talk about doing CMET, all those things, because even though I don't say it, Yolanda can tell you everything is organized. You go from this to this to this. There's no, Chris is going to come on around, he'll be here.
Right.
Everything is in a business. It gives the entrepreneurs that are there the sense of, okay, this is structured. I've got structure. I've got an environment that's safe. And now I've got knowledge. And I trust that Joe is going to get me from day 1 to day 5.
So, one quick question, though, Joe, right before we move on. And my question is a question of trust. I don't feel, right, as a Black community, we trust, I don't want to say trust enough in our brothers to do business.
Tristan,
I
do you
feel that's
trust
a
me?
system in which, unfortunately, I do, Joe. Unfortunately, I do.
Why do you trust me?
I trust you because your story, right? Your story and your character seems like mine's, right? You gave us a brief example of your history. What I could tell you from what it is that you didn't have to say is that you're a hard worker, you're dedicated. You see what I'm saying? And I got that from, like you said, you were one generation away from slavery. We know what it is that we don't want to go back to. I just made a post the other day on Facebook talking about a young lady, Miss Perry. She used to work in a financial aid office where I went to college, right? And I felt like she was an unsung hero because I know where I came from. My kids would never add water to milk to stretch it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what it is that our story is not just the fact that it's similar. We have a goal. We know what it is that we're working towards, right? And failure is not an option. Go ahead.
Tristan, there's a quote from Public Enemy, and they say, not every brother is your brother.
Say that one more time.
So,
that sounded.
Not every brother is your brother.
So what you have to
I'm
do
sorry.
is, so what you
I was
have
going
to
to say
do
one more
though,
time.
so Tristan, what you have to think about is that people that you collaborate with, you have to do due diligence. I mean, Sammy did due diligence on me. I did due diligence on her. You're running a business. It's not about going to a party. You see somebody across the room. Hey, they kind of look, they got swag, blah, 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 blah. No. This is business. And I think that's
Correct.
That's one of the things we've got to get into our heads is that for collaboration to be successful, I've got to bring something to the table. You've got to bring something, but you got to show me, right? You can't be holding your cards going, you know what? I got 3 aces here. I've got the king of spades. I'm just waiting. I'm going to take advantage of Chris and then bam, cut him. No. It's got to, my cards are on the table. Let's talk about this, over coffee. Let's talk about it over, let me see your business. Come into my business and let me see how it operates. You've got to open up. Baby. What's that?
I'm sorry.
I see you smiling, baby. I see you smiling. My empowered sister.
So those are the differences that we've got to think about. That it's not a relationship. I used to tell my managers and salespeople that the relationship you have with a customer is a business relevant relationship. The only reason why you're there is because of what you bring. And it's the same thing for you, Tristan. If you're doing business with Chris, Chris, to know, like, and trust you, it doesn't say know, love, and trust.
Yep.
It's know, like, and trust. So let's not get caught up on that semantics of, I got to love the person I do. But no.
Right.
I mean, Google does not love Facebook. But guess what? They'll do business with Facebook. If it means dollars, they will do business because it makes sense. And that's what we got to think about.
But that's what it is. I feel like sometimes we just completely overlook, and that's where we treat business as an emotional facet. You see what I'm saying? I could speak about here in the Virgin Islands, where Shalana alluded to it a little bit, where it's a tight-knit group, and it's have the people the people you like, and people you trust, and then there's the people you don't like. Yeah. However, for me, and I feel even with Shalana, is it's not about the people we don't like. What we look at is the fact of what it is that you bring to the table. Because a lot of business owners, and I don't understand why, we always seem to read The Art of War and all this stuff. But even in there's a point where it's your enemies. You see what I'm saying? You want your enemy to do work for you. You want the people that you don't like to do that work for you, because when regardless of the fact if they're really good at what it is that they do, the fact that they don't like you, they're gonna do it with something a little extra, because now they gotta show you damn, I was gonna say my shit that much more better. This is why you need and that's
Tristan,
what
let me just address that. That's why they have attorneys. So if Chris and you are going to do business and you don't trust Chris, then there's a legal document that you can put in place to say, okay, if I want to do business with Chris, these are the parameters. And if Chris doesn't agree to it.
Right.
Joe, I'm loving you, baby. I'm going to tell you why.
And I've always heard it as if you are friends with the person you're going to business with, still have the legal documents.
Yes.
Because the legal documents will protect friendships.
Yes.
In the breakup, when emotions do come into play, then you say, well, hey, we agreed to this at the beginning, and then, it is what it is. But let's get into some souvenirs here.
Alrighty, so yes, with Joe, there's so many.
I know.
At one point, I was looking down because I was writing notes. The three things every entrepreneur needs to remember: discipline, execution, commitment. And I like to add a fourth, which you kind of insinuated to, but you didn't say explicitly: focus.
Oh God, yes. John, you're right. Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris.
Execute willy-nilly, but if you're not focused, that's usually where I come in. I get the guys, can we focus? Let's bring it in.
I love the hands.
Yeah, because as entrepreneurs, we have to be focused on the milestones. We have to be focused on the numbers. We have to be focused on where we want to go. We got to be focused on how our business is operating for us to be able to apply the discipline and to know how to effectively execute and to remain committed.
Yeah.
Those are my souvenirs.
100%.
Yeah, totally. And that is something that I learned at CMET. It's interesting because we had a previous episode where we were talking about the business plan. And we're like, how many entrepreneurs start their business with a business plan? Some of them were like, I did a business plan, sort of kind of did a business plan, didn't do a business plan. And after going to CMET, I came back to the guys. I was like, we need to do a business plan. If we don't have the foundation in place, guys, we can't put up the the walls, and we can't build the rooms, and we can't. And so our business plan was in the form of a spreadsheet because we just needed quick and dirty. But even with a podcast where it's a collaboration between all of us, at some point we're seeing it as a business where we meet and we look at the analytics, we look at the numbers, we look at, okay, how are we providing value and how can we eventually monetize it? Because at the end of the day, a business got to make money.
Exactly.
Nice.
You want to get paid. If not, it's a hobby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually, I do want to bring something in here that I think, because it definitely affected me, and I just sort of had one of those epiphanies in reading a book recently. So there's an author, Cal Newport. I was reading his book, Deep Work, which is about kind of commitment and the diligence of focusing on deep level tasks as opposed to like surface level things and distractions like social media and stuff, and how to really like carve out your day and become more focused. But he has another book called So Good They Can't Ignore You, and it talks about the passion theory, and how that has become popular over time, that you have to do what you're passionate about as an entrepreneur. But really they found out that what makes people happy and having a feeling of success is more of how long have you been doing what you're doing, B, how good are you, or how confident are you in your ability to do it, and C is, do you like the people that you're doing it with? And so people who chase passions, quote unquote, oftentimes feel unfulfilled, but people who maybe weren't passionate about what they were doing to begin with, like Bill Gates, when him and Steve Wozniak started building the computers, they actually did it based on an opportunity. They built some motherboards to make like $50 a piece. They went to go sell it to a local shop, and the shop said, I don't want a motherboard, but if you build the entire computer, I'll buy them for $500 a piece. And so he actually wasn't interested in building computers, but he just had the diligence to pursue it and create an opportunity around that. And then he did it over time, started enjoying the people he did it with, and all of a sudden you have these people and they're like, oh, well, Bill Gates was passionate about computers all his life, when no, he wasn't. And same with like Steve Jobs. They say like he likely would have been kind of like a spiritualist in California had he not had the opportunity to really like go and build things. So I just kind of want to bring that up just because I know entrepreneurs do get caught up in the passion, but you do have to have that commitment and the diligence to execute. And it's not always about what's passionate about. It's what where the opportunity lies. But I'm going to get into. I know I derailed that.
That was a detour.
A detour. Did anybody else want to chime in before I go to the takeaway?
I got the last one. Joe quoted Public Enemy, and I'm gonna quote Biggie when he said he has lawyers watching lawyers so they don't go broke. And that's what it is. If you don't trust them, we gotta get those lawyers in on it, so quick and dirty.
All right. All right.
Uh-oh, almost caught you.
Oh, you caught it. You caught it, Joe.
It's puppy.
Joe, they dropped the cup of Joe so quick.
All right. So I have two more quotes here. And this is kind of more back on what we're talking about, creating a legacy, but sort of having to be likable and to know, who you're working with. So the first one is by Shannon Adler, and it says, "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones. A legacy is etched into the minds of others and the stories they share about you." And then the second one is one of my favorite entrepreneurs that I follow is Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V. And he says, not one of my favorite, not my favorite, Tristan.
I appreciate you, Chris.
But Gary V says, "Please think about your legacy because you are writing it every day." And to me, that one kind of jumped out at the beginning here, just because it's about kind of what we do, now that is going to affect who we're going to be able to help down the road, whether it's ourselves or others. But that we have to be conscious of, what we're putting our time and energy into, and who we're doing it with, in order to, maximize and our success moving forward, but really maximizing the the goal of the greater good, or the movement that CMET is creating here. That if the people going into that or coming out of that program realize that we're really creating a legacy here and something bigger than ourselves, then we can accomplish a lot more for ourselves and the future generations to come.
All I want to say is this, ladies and gentlemen, how many podcasts can you go on where you'll hear a Greek philosopher, Desmond Tutu, Biggie, Public Enemy, and Gary Vee?
That's the beauty of the diversity of this eclectic group of people that we have on this podcast.
I love it.
That's the entrepreneur's trip.
It is. It really is, Tristan.
Tripping.
And the energy that Joe has brought to this conversation. We certainly have gone over our typical schedule that we like to keep to, but Joe, you've
if I can say something though, I could add something to it, is that sometimes, and then Tristan said it earlier, it's our mothers and fathers. Our legacy is, when I look at my legacy, I look at my father and the sacrifices that he made. He worked in a coal mine 20 some years. He had a slate dump on him in a coal mine, crushed his chest. My mother was a domestic. And I look back on them and the sacrifices that they made for me to be at this point. And at the end of the day, I just want them to look and say, you know what? He's, he everything we gave him, he did it. He did it. We're proud of you. That's what I you always seek the approval of your parents. And that's what I seek, is still, I'm 70 years old, and here I am still seeking the approval of Albert Simmons and Hetty Simmons. I am their son, and that's my legacy.
And you know what,
That's
Joe?
their legacy.
I think that two comments I need to make. I think not knowing your parents, but knowing you, I'm sure your parents are saying, not only did he do really well with what we gave him, he did more beyond our expectations. Because the lives that you're touching through the work that you're doing is creating a ripple effect that you probably never understand the magnitude of the impact you're having. And I could just say that for me, I feel blessed to be part of CMET and to have met you, and to have you as part of my network. So thank you. And then the second comment I have to make, and I know we're out of time, but if people are wondering if Joe and I are related because he's Simmons and no, I have a D and he doesn't have a D. But we're related in heart.
I don't know. You kind of have that Simmons, that Simmons laugh, that sense of humor.
Because I'm a Simmons.
Yeah. When you went to St. Croix, the islands, you just added the D, so you'd be a little
bit right. They wanted a new identity. They were like, I'm tired of
Kristen,
I don't want to.
She's passing as a Simmons.
On that note, guys, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to connecting with you again soon. We're going to probably talk about some possible collaborations. So our listening audience just need to stay tuned, because you never know what we're cooking up on the Entrepreneur's Trip. Until next time, everybody, take care.
See ya.
And stay focused.
Thank you for taking this trip with us. We hope you had a great time. Join us every Tuesday for another dose of X.T.C. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and visit us at theentrepreneurs.com for more entrepreneurship tips and trips. See you next time.